Okay. Good evening, everyone. I call the November 6th regular meeting of the District Board to order. John, would you please call the roll?
Curry.
Here.
Adel.
Here.
Anderson. Avedisian.
Here.
Pisano.
Here.
Buell. Bush.
Here.
Clark. Desai. DeBella.
Here.
Drake.
Here.
Gale. Cardo.
Here.
Gentile. Healy. Hoffman.
Here.
Oheb. Holloway.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
LaChance. Lester.
Here.
Lewis. Magnan. Van Dyke.
Here.
Maniscalco. Payne.
Here.
Patel.
Here.
Salemi.
Here.
Stuber.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Torres. Wolf. Carrier. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from October 7th, 2024.
Move adoption.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, changes, deletions, additions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to address the board on agenda items only? Good evening, Judy.
Aye. One. Judy Allen, West Hartford, and I'd like to speak about the creation of a committee on collective bargaining. I'm not sure why the committee is needed. It looks as though you're creating something that the board has final say over what the union contracts are going to be. Is there something you've been concerned about? From my perspective, it looks like negotiations have gone very well, and there's been some wonderful things that have come out of that. And so I guess I'm wondering if there's a problem that people feel they need to make changes about. And is there information that commissioners can't get without creation of a committee? So I have questions and concerns about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Hearing none. Reports from district chairman. The only thing I have is that I've reached out to both the mayor of Windsor, the mayor of Rocky Hill to set up a meeting. We're meeting with Rocky Hill's mayor and leadership day after tomorrow, I believe. I have not heard back yet from the mayor of Windsor. So I'll update you after the meetings take place. Report from Chief Executive Officer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have two issues. I'd just like to thank staff. I'm going to name a few of them: Julie Price, Julie McLaughlin, Jason Bretemps, Brian Amenta, and there's a lot more people get involved in this. But we did our second annual ice cream event at the Phoenix Society of Firemen's Club, as well as Colt Plastics. Colt Plastics is in Dayville, Connecticut. Colt Park. So it was a great event, and everybody's very happy we were there. One Last week, Chris Stone, myself, and staff, we were at negotiations with EPA and with the city of Hartford on the MS4 MOU mediation. We had 2 days. We were given a mandate from James Chow, who's the Chief Enforcement Officer for EPA in Boston for Region 1, that they expected us to come up with a resolution of the MOU for the MS4, clean the streets, clean the catch basins, all that good stuff. And as part of that, they expected us to come up with a resolution. If we couldn't come up with a resolution, EPA and the mediator would make recommendations. So our first day was very successful. We got a lot of the issues out of the way that we basically had already agreed to in the previous mediations back in May. The harder part, the following day, Thursday, was really to try and hone in on this question about we don't want to clean the catch basins more often because the city's not cleaning the streets. The city has done an incredible job cleaning the streets. They're doing a great job. They're actually cleaning the streets twice a month, and it shows. And so it's made a huge difference, and we're very, very happy about that. So through a lot of discussions, trying to quantify this to make sure that MDC is not cleaning catch basins more often than we should. Our position is the city needs to clean the streets more often. And given the fact that we're happy with what the city's doing now and they're happy with what we're doing now, we agreed to memorialize that in the document. So that way, moving forward, MDC, as you know, are putting new catch basin covers on all the catch basins so that it won't allow any kind of litter or garbage to get into the catch basin. But given the fact the city is doing a great job and continues to do a great job, and two times a month is working, we're happy with that. So we incorporated that into the agreement. The only thing we couldn't really resolve, which the mediator is going to make a recommendation to EPA, is that we had done a report back in 2014, the Kleinfelder report, and the Kleinfelder report basically says that MDC owns the majority of the sewer storm system in Hartford, about 57%. DOT owns some, the city owns 8%, but there's an unknown of about 20-something%. And so trying to understand who's gonna clean that portion and who's gonna, clean the pipes and clean the catch basins. So what we had proposed, MDC, was that we would share in the cost until we decide and figure out how we identify who owns that 20%. And the city didn't feel like they should have to pay for that. So we are going to let the mediator decide. We presented all of our facts, and the city presented their facts, and then we might have an opportunity to review what the recommendations are and have another chance to talk it through with the mediator, with EPA, and with the city. But the EPA, James Chow, has indicated he wants this done by Thanksgiving. So we reiterated that we need the board to approve any MOU. So whenever that draft is done, we will bring it back to this body. So
Unidentified.
Oh, that is good.
yes, that's it.
All right, questions by commissioners? Commissioner?
Unidentified. Do you have the inventory, where they are, and are they in private properties?
Yes, Commissioner, a combination of things, like there's no record of some pipe that has an outfall that goes to the side of the highway. There's a lot of those kinds of unknowns. It's so old, there's no records. We don't have any records, so the city's looking in their records to see. But we, as part of the MOU, we have created a working group, a committee, and that committee will be basically, we named the committee. It'll be our COO and our engineering staff, along with the director of public works for the city, and the chief engineer, and they'll together we'll try and figure all this out. And it's gonna take time, but it's a starting point. So.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott, if I recall correctly, there was a large balance of money due from Hartford for catch basin cleaning that's been going on for quite a few years. Was that resolved, or if you could give us an update on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So in our previous negotiations, we did have that discussion about the 600,000. And we went back and forth with a few concepts of how to resolve that. We weren't happy, the city wasn't happy, so it was dropped. We brought it up again this time, and the city wasn't prepared or wanted to speak to it in the MOU. But what could happen is when we have this conversation regarding this 20%. Right now, MDC is going to be cleaning all of its catch basins. The city is going to be cleaning theirs. They don't have a lot, but they have 8% of the system or more, depending on what we find. So right now, as of right now, we'll clean ours, they'll clean theirs, and then we'll be testing our outfalls. We have 43 outfalls. We know of 40 others. We believe is either the city's or someone else's. So once we figure all that out, there may be an opportunity to bring back the financial piece of this to negotiate something to compensate MDC for that 600,000.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think it's fair to the other towns, Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, Newington, that if we just eliminate something that the town owes us, the city owes us. So how many years has this been going on now? Bill, that 600,000 is going on for like
2015.
2015. We haven't collected the money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just on Commissioner Payne's point, if I can just go through that. If I'm not mistaken, the charges that we were charging the city of Hartford, those catch basins, they were never negotiated prior to this, correct? Like, when we started charging them, we started charging them. It wasn't like we had a negotiated fee already set with them. It wasn't like we had an agreement for it. And like you said, 92% could be argued are catch basins, because our system is a lot different than a Weathersfield or a West Hartford or anybody else's, because we own a majority of the sewer system in the city of Hartford. I just want to make sure I'm correct in that.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair. Please. Yeah, so thank you. So the MDC and the city have tried to negotiate this since really 2008, right? There's documents going back that never were memorialized. They're not official. The board didn't approve it. But it was basically up till 2013 before, when the landfill closed. The agreement was, in general, we'll clean the catch basins, and you allow us to dump the spoils from the catch basins in the landfill for free. And then when the landfill closed in 2013, 14, 15, I'm not sure exactly the date it closed, but it was officially closed in 15. We were again trying to negotiate an MOU about this very topic, about what do we do with the spoils. The agreement was, and this MOU agreement was, a shared responsibility. Now MDC is paying for the spoils, and in addition to the concern we had about we had to create a protocol for cleaning the catch basins for MS4. Which is why we said, okay, we're gonna clean the catch basins every 2 years. And we had to clean them more often because of garbage, and therefore we were charging the city. So you're absolutely correct, Commissioner, except there was a understanding amongst the city and the MDC back in the 2008 timeframe that MDC would clean the catch basins and the spoils would be dumped for free. Now it's costing us a lot more money because we have to de-water the spoils, and there's more expense to it.
And just one follow-up, if I could, Mr. Chair. In the budget, and I apologize, I didn't look through all the pages to know exactly, are we carrying a $600,000 receivable in the budget for this right now?
No, we're not.
So we don't have anything as far as a receivable in our books right now that we're carrying for the city of Hartford?
But is Bob there?
We do have a receivable.
Oh, you do, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
it is a revenue
apologize.
receivable.
And how, what's that number?
Six
I don't have
change.
the, yeah,
It's
it's around
6 and
six.
change.
We continue to bill quarterly.
But we're billing, but that's not the question. Do we have it as a receivable in the budget?
It's not in the budget,
Yeah,
but it's
well,
in
that
our
was the-
revenues.
Yeah. No, it's on our budget for,
Budget revenue.
it's not identified like we do for Colebrook or for
No,
Deep.
no, not in the
So,
budget,
but it
not
is
in
in
the
our-
operating budget.
It is being carried in our report, our financial report, as
As an
monies due to us.
Yeah,
But
outstanding
not in the budget,
receivable,
it's not
an
in the budget.
Outstanding receivable.
And are we billing, sorry, last question, are we billing right now still?
Yes.
Even with them doing the work that they've been doing?
Well, we only charge them what we charge them on the 50% roll, right? So we're not charging them, the more the city cleans, the less we have to clean, right? So it's, I don't know what the monthly bill was.
We do it quarterly, I believe, correct, Chris? Yeah, we get the data from engineering and operations, and we bill quarterly based on how many catch basins we clean in accordance with those rules.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Through you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, if my memory serves me correctly, we had a negotiation with the city, and they claimed MDC owed them so much money, and we claimed that they owed us so much money. We cleaned that up, and there was a balance left over of about $300,000 that the city, in other words, they couldn't match dollar for dollar offsets. And then what happened was, we ended up in a situation where the city of Hartford gave up ownership of the of the landfill, and that had to be what, about 14 or 15, 13, and that's when the state said, well, we're going to charge you to put it in there, and that's where we picked up the rest of the balance on it. Isn't that?
Well, let me just clarify, if I may, Mr. Chair. What you're referring to, Commissioner, is that was the water bills. We had multiple water meters on properties that were city-owned, and some of them were not actually city-owned property. It was actually, could have been housing authority. So it took us a while to clean all that up. That's all done. So everybody's happy. They paid us, and we're all good.
So we settled that one.
Yeah, that's all settled, but the landfill, when it closed,
Well, it never closed.
it closed.
The city lost ownership. The state took it over.
No, they closed the landfill. It's closed. They closed it. And so when they closed it, the city, I know CRA was involved there for a while, whenever that was, back in 2000. But the city closed the landfill. Deep forced them to close the landfill. And when the landfill was closed, we no longer could bring it there for free. We have to now bring it to other places, and we actually have to pay for that. So there's an expense there. Then there's an additional expense of having to clean them more often, which is, basically the monies that we're charging. So.
Mr. Chairman,
To decide?
I worked at MDC, city 30 years, and it was always assumed MDC was cleaning the catch basins. Nobody ever mentioned that it is city's responsibility, and it was always done. Now, you arbitrarily, and maybe for your own reason, and you found one quote-unquote excuse that we were dumping it free, now we have to pay for it. So you arbitrarily decided that we want to charge city. Didn't negotiate, there is no agreement even as of today, there is nothing in writing anywhere saying that who is responsible for what. So I think there has to be some reasonableness, and amount which you calculated was obviously arbitrarily one-sided.
No, yeah, that's fine. I would just say, Commissioner, that when someone damages MDC in any way, we bill them, right? So our position is, I have multiple documents over the years between the city and ourselves about trying to come to a resolution on this topic, and we couldn't, and we haven't. And now we have an agreement, an MOU that works for both of us. And as long as the city continues to do what they're doing, and they're doing a great job, we should not be incurring any more cost. How we resolve the issue of the 600,000 is,
It's a negotiation.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I agree that there was a period of time, city probably was stopped sweeping as much as they did. And as a result caused a problem, and you forced the issue, which in my opinion was a good solution. And ultimately, both parties are doing a better job. And that is a good resolution. But this amount which we have been carrying on books, which has to be resolved amicably without bringing it up at the board unnecessarily and making city look bad. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Excuse me,
You
Mr.
wanna-
Chairman.
I mean, this is a topic that we've discussed annually, and it really, I don't think it's part of the presentation Scott
Well,
made.
it had a question with Scott's presentation, and I don't really like the fact that this commissioner is calling me out. We've been talking about this for years. It's on the balance sheet. It's not fair to the other towns, and I hope that this MOU addresses the issue and makes something fair, considering that we have other members of the other towns that are part of this MDC. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I would say we have 7 other member towns, not the 2 or 3 you mentioned. So
I understand that.
besides that, I have to say, we sit here, we come from a lot of different places, but with a lot of experience, whether it be political or managerial or union or town or city. And it's okay to criticize each other. It's okay to disagree with each other, but let's do it in a civil way, and there's no need for responses. I will try to address those things when they happen, but let's just keep it civil. That's all I ask. Krista, do you want to?
Yes, thank you. Very briefly, just on that issue, and I won't prolong it. I take the chairman's advice on that, but I think that one of the reasons why, or at least arguably, that the city of Hartford is doing such a better job on sweeping the streets is because we were pursuing the cost for that additional cleaning of the catch basins. And it's not an issue of ownership of catch basins. It's the issue of our increased maintenance because the streets weren't being swept on a regular basis. That has changed, I would assume, and I'm not going to ask Chris this directly, but I assume that the bills have gone down over the last several months, if not a couple years, because of the more aggressive street sweeping that the city's been engaged in. So that's a positive thing. But you did highlight, in terms of whether there's agreement or not, some of the issues relating to any action which we might take. I said this a couple years ago. I'm not going to sue a fellow member town unless I get a resolution from the board saying sue a member town. So that's where we are. Anyway, the mediation that Scott pointed out was very productive. I won't go. He did a very good summary of what happened. It's going to come back to this board, maybe to sub-bureaus like the Bureau of Public Works. It's going to be a recommendation from us. It's not going to be written in stone, so to speak. You'll have a say in what it provides. There will be a recommendation, perhaps, which will include how to deal with the outstanding bill from the mediator. And he has said it's only a recommendation. There'll be pain that will be meted out to both sides. There'll be gains for both sides in terms of the financial aspects of this, but it will be just a recommendation. He is a mediator, not an arbitrator. So he will offer a suggestion. I will tell you that ultimately, if we do not have an agreement with the city of Hartford on the MS4 issue, we'll get an order from the federal government, which we will have very little control over, relating to the MS4 issue. It's better to reach an agreement that we can all live with rather than have it come down from regulators in Boston. So that's that mediation. The tunnel mediation is still on for the mid-December. Hopefully, it's a 2-day mediation. Hopefully, we'll have as positive a result from that mediation as we had, and hopefully we'll have on the MS4 mediation. The deep litigation, as you know, I want to give you constant, updates on that. Garrett Flynn, our outside lawyer who's been handling this, has done a wonderful job in terms of getting us through the claims commissioner process. We have one case in litigation now. The other 2 cases, the Buckingham Garage and the revised payment fee schedule case, will be filed within the next few days. We'll then file a motion to consolidate. Hopefully that'll be granted, and we'll have 1 case going through the courts instead of 3. So that's where we are on that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Hearing none? And Chris, was that your?
That's it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, number 9, we have consideration, potential action, approval of job specifications. A is construction utility services supervisor, which is a revision, and B, occupational health and safety administrator, which is a new job spec. Jamie?
Move adoption. Is it A
And
or
thank you. For purposes of discussion, Al, can we have a motion?
Yes, I will follow on Vice Chair DeBella. I move that we approve these 2 job classifications or specifications. Jamie will make a few comments on them and answer any questions.
Can we take them separately?
Yes,
Commissioner Taylor?
yes. We're going to take each one separately, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we will take item A first.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jamie Harlow from HR. Again, as the Commissioners have said, this was approved at PP&I. The first one is a revision to construction and utility services supervisor, just due to changes in the job that has essentially grown. It's one of the multitasking jobs that we have here, and they're doing much more work with customer interactions, managing complex programs. So we have, and obviously safety is first and foremost one of the most important aspects. So with some of those changes, we had brought it in 2021, but again, at that point had not suggested a increase to the labor grade, so we are requesting that in this situation to take it from an SS6 to an SS7. And I can address any questions that you may have.
Questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Gerald Treehorn.
And opposed?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. All right, Commissioner Taylor, letter B?
Okay, 9B was approved unanimously by PP&I. Once again, Jamie.
Thank you again, Commissioners. So this is a brand new job specification. It's the Environmental Health and Safety Administrator. It is in line with all of our other administrator roles here. But given, again, the importance of safety, kind of how that has evolved and the high level of responsibility within that unit, we have only a couple safety professionals that are dealing on a regular basis with 22 plus safety programs. They're interacting with OSHA as necessary, filing those standards, dealing with our safety committees, amongst a whole host of other responsibilities. So this really is a slightly higher level position that we are proposing to add to our job matrix.
Questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Jamie. Move on to number 10, Bureau of Public Works, consideration, potential action. A is the Windsor Lock sewer treatment, and B is request for deferral of 109 Pearson Lane, Windsor assessment. Chair recognizes Commissioner Hoffman for a motion on 10A.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Each of these items, A and B, taking A first, was presented by staff and discussed and passed unanimously by the committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, before we move into discussion, I'd like to note that in the original document provided to us, it was constructing an 8-inch sewer main, and I'm requesting that the motion made change that to a 10-inch sewer main. There's no additional cost, just a typo, if you will. So, Al, would you consider making an amendment to make it a 10-inch sewer main?
Certainly, as stated.
Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Discussion on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Amendment passes. Now we'll vote on the motion as amended. Is there any questions on the motion as amended? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. And move on to 10B. Chair again recognizes Commissioner Hoffman.
Move the item.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Item 11 on the agenda, Water Bureau, consideration potential action, Goodwin Dam, lead market participant. Chair recognizes Commissioner Adel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Water Bureau discussed this November, earlier, at our earlier meeting. Staff gave a very good presentation, and we had someone from the New England wholesale electric markets proposing that they would assist us in being a market participant, and that was a unanimous vote in favor.
There a second?
Recommend move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion? Questions?
Commissioner Drake, could you just, I'm not sure if I understood this. Could someone just, do we make more money doing this, or what's changed versus becoming a participant versus we don't want to become a participant?
Yeah.
I just don't spend a lot of time.
Yeah, just quickly, ISO requires you to, after we got out of our the contracts that changed in 2017 and 18, they required you to have a lead market participant to sell power to the grid. It's like, having a broker.
So do we have somebody else before?
We did, and we're bidding it, and so we're changing that party.
Good enough, I get it.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Takes us to number 12, consideration potential action establishment of special committee for collective bargaining negotiations. Chair recognizes, well, I don't recognize anybody. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. I will speak to this. And Judy Allen, if that was the intent of this, I would have those very same concerns, but that is not the intent. This is to establish a committee that the members of the committee, member or members, would participate in as a member of the negotiating panel during the oncoming negotiations. This was something that came to me back in January. And there was no sense of urgency at that time because, and there's really no sense now of urgency because all of our negotiations are pretty well completed for 3 years?
3 years.
So, but I think it's time to put it in place. The intent is for the board to have a representative there, but the real intent is, I'm hoping that there'll be an increased communications between the negotiation teams, i.e. Scott and Chris, and back to PPI, so that, and prior to negotiation starting, so that when that first day of putting everything on the table, each side presents that list, that the PPI committee has been briefed and has been a participant in the discussions on what should be considered on that last list and final presentation to the bargaining unit. So it's something that, and surprisingly, I was surprised because I've been sitting on management side of negotiations for over 30 years, including at the state level, which sitting around this board is a small group when you go into a room and you deal with state negotiations, bargaining unit negotiations, because there might be 50 people sitting at that table. I got a call from one of our commissioners who participated for almost as long, maybe longer, on the bargaining unit side. And during all his time, he had never had a member of the management time, i.e. Board of Ed, Town Council, whatever level, be a participating member of the negotiating team representing management. I find that it works exceedingly well and encourages better communication or increased communication back to, in this case, it would be PPI. So that's why I'm bringing it forward to you. Any questions? Josh?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we've never done this before.
We have, a long time ago.
A long time, okay, pardon me, long time ago.
And I'm not one, I will tell you all, I'm not one that says we're going to do it because that's how we did it before. I didn't even know that until
It was a little
recently.
So the question is, we have our management team, which is in those negotiations. And what I'm hearing is we're not getting good communication from them.
No, I didn't say
Well,
that.
no, that's why I'm asking the question to PPI, and that you're going to have better communication with one of the board members on there than you would from your own staff. I mean, and that's, I mean, maybe I'm missing something.
A board member from this body.
Right.
Commissioner. They're not the one who's going to communicate with us. But they will be there as a participant and will have firsthand knowledge of what's going on behind the doors. Keep in mind, it's all an executive session. So when we come to PPI, that too will go into executive session as you talk strategy for upcoming negotiations. But I'm hoping it'll lead to increased, I don't necessarily say better, but I will say increased communications between both sides. I personally, I think that negotiations over the years since I've been here for almost 14 years have went exceedingly well. I'm utterly amazed, I'm still amazed that Jamie and Scott and Chris and the negotiating team was able to get consolidation of jobs. I mean, it's almost an unheard of thing. And that will always amaze me. And you know, there's some of us at the table that are unhappy with some of the outcomes or why the outcomes have happened. And I just feel that if we have a body on that team, that negotiations will be as they are now, but we'll have increased communication. So that's it. And I'm also hoping that and it really is not tied to it, but I'm hoping that other than for individual contracts that are not bargaining unit, that this will work well enough that we won't have to hire independent counsel to negotiate with the bargaining units, not with management, with the bargaining units. Any other questions, Commissioner?
Yes, Mr. Chair, could you just give a little bit more, like, how many people are you thinking that would be involved in this? And then also, I guess I would assume that the people in the room that are selected from the board are not I'm trying to think this through as I'm talking about it, and I love other commissioners' feelings, that they're not necessarily the one that's negotiating at that table. It's almost like a silent listening session, because I think there has to be one mouthpiece for negotiations from the MDC
You're absolutely,
when they're at the table.
You're
So
absolutely
it's not like if
correct.
I'm selected, I'm sitting there and going, well, no, I think we should do X, Y, and Z. That's not it. It's almost like a silent partner there at the table.
Pretty much
Wow, in
everybody at the table is a silent partner, except for those that are presenting the management's position. But when you break to discuss counter proposals, or even before you get to that, to the initial proposals, which I hope would come back to PPI before that happens, that's when a member of this body or members can participate in discussions when they're in executive session away from the negotiating table. But I agree with you, it's, other than that, they're, pretty much no one should be speaking except those making the presentation.
And can I just ask, how many were you, if I can, Mr. Chair, if I could, I just had two more
It'll,
questions.
it'll be a minimal number. I'm thinking 1 or 2. And my goal would be, I know there's folks at this commissioners at this table that have experience, either side, both sides. And I would like to gather that information in writing for those that may be interested in serving on this committee, and make a selection based on those that have experience and understanding of both management, bargaining units, and negotiation process. It's not a place for a novice to begin.
And I guess I'm also just, Commissioner Munich, I apologize. Mr. Chair, when we're talking about this, I guess, you know, I'm all about trying to improve communications and make things better, but I guess I'm just a little concerned because it seems as though we have been able, I mean, I have been so impressed with our staff, Jamie's work, Chris's work, Scott's work, with really having a partnership with our unions. And I think it's been to the benefit of our towns and of this institution, how they're willing to trust people and really start to look at how we can not only benefit employees, but the MDC by some of the things that we've been able to do with job consolidations, et cetera. And I guess I'm sitting there going, okay, we've had a lot of great success. Why would we do this now? It seems like it's been, I'm just trying to figure out why now for this.
Now, because first we have the time to implement it and find the right person or people to serve on the committee. Secondly, I absolutely agree with everything you've said. However, there are commissioners around the table that will disagree with everything you've said. So I'm trying to find a neutral ground where things will not change, the negotiations will go on, but a member of this body will have a voice in discussing and proposing within the body, but not at the negotiating table itself. That's
And
it.
last, just a technicality, if we can just make sure that this is gender neutral in our resolutions, that would be helpful, because there might someday be a woman in your seat. Mr. Chair, that's my last comment. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Salemi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I think it's a good idea. I think it's worth a try. I can't say that it's, we did do this stuff before, I guess now it's all, I'm not saying that we should do it again because we did it before. We did it successfully before, so I'm not sure that's a good or bad thing. But we've also had commissioners participate in other things as a way of sort of monitoring and actually helping staff by, being present for things. I know Alan Hoffman and I have sat in on selections. What was it? Was it the insurance? Oh, I can't remember which one it was. We sat through a couple of, and other commissioners have too, as a representative of the board through, an activity of the staff. That being said, I also, I'm not sure that having, folks be involved in this way is going to obviate the need completely for some sort of labor council. I mean, we've had, I don't expect to see, if there's 3 or 4 commissioners involved in this, them go to, mediation arbitration hearings. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but that's the place where a labor council winds up. And that's the only thing I would ask, that, I'm certainly, going to support this, but I'd like at some point, to have everybody have an understanding of, we have 8-member towns, and whether those 8-member towns use, labor council, whether they have, an independent or separate labor council to deal with their staff. I think that you're going to find that they do. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean that, we absolutely have to, but it's certainly supportive of the fact that, having someone besides just the staff and labor, because of the sort of natural, division between those two, that it's usually someone to sort of be in between that, sort of participate in making sure that what's happening is fair to both sides, and also sort of satisfies our own prerogative to see what's going on it's our prerogative and our responsibility as a commission to be informed on all of what's going on. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I agree, and I don't want anyone to construe that a vote in support of this motion is tied in any way to consideration for an independent labor council down the road. I just threw that out there, so.
Mr. Chairman,
Desai?
all agreements ultimately will come to the board for final.
Patel, I'm sorry.
Okay?
Yes.
Any commissioner presence there, does it create a legal problem in terms of one of our member may have agreed, disagreed, whatever? Can it cause a problem when entire board have different opinion or changes their mind? Legal question.
Well, Chris Stone, to the extent I heard you right, and having someone there is not going to create a legal problem vis-a-vis that person in the board. Remember that this committee, and it's phrased, we use the words carefully, right? They may initially make recommendations, and that's their job. And as the chairman pointed out, that doesn't mean they're sitting at the table arguing, bargaining, whatever it might be, but there would be a useful purpose is as the negotiating teams are either at an impasse or need to discuss something privately, it would be that person or that group of people that your negotiating team can rely upon, not necessarily to bind the board, but to offer suggestions on how that impasse might be addressed outside the presence of the other side. And we caucus all the time during these, as you can imagine, during these, and that would be a great opportunity for the member or members of this special committee to be engaged, and then be able to share come back to you, the board, and share with the board, the ins and outs, what happened, what was suggested, where are we, where can we be? That's all.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Did you get that, John?
Commissioners Payne and Gardeau.
Oh, no.
No?
No,
I'm sorry. I heard it
You
over
got
there.
that wrong.
Okay. I heard it from over there. Commissioner Avedisian and Gardeau, was there anyone else that was opposed? Anyone online? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. And within a short time, I'll be sending out a letter to all commissioners, asking those who might be interested in serving on this special committee to submit, call it a resume, but not a full resume, but a resume as it would pertain to your experience with negotiations. With that, we'll move on to item 13, opportunity for general public comments. Anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Hearing none, commissioner requests for future agenda items. Commissioner Salemi?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to establish a future agenda item that I'm trying to exactly, it's not a resolution, so I'll just describe what it is. I think that there's an issue for that in front of us too, where I think we ought to sort of develop or redevelop the activities or an augmentation of the activities that at recreational activities at Lake McDonough. We heard recently at Board of Finance Commission meeting that this past year, again, we didn't have, we couldn't get a lifeguard. And I know that we discussed how much it costs for a lifeguard and rangers or whatever to make the thing. But I think we, before the budget is completed, I think it would be a good opportunity for us to talk about what it would take to actually reestablish the activities there. The actual Allied Town Agreement, I believe, says that we're supposed to be providing recreational opportunities for the towns and their people out there. I don't know if the tax rate that we pay is directly connected to that, but it was part of the agreement. And I'd just like the MDC, it's been, I think, 3 years, maybe since COVID, or maybe a fourth year, that we haven't been able to do this. And I'd hate to lose this because Lake McDonough has been a great recreational facility, not just for the tax towns out there, but we've had, some of the member towns, the city of Hartford, actually use it as well. So if we could establish an agenda item to just discuss how we might be able to, attract the kind of people to be a lifeguard and also, create those activities and manage them, I'd appreciate if we could put that on a future agenda soon so that we could deal with it if it becomes a budget item.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Godot?
Yes, there were a number of emails that went around the last 2 weeks that had to do with matters of concern. I'd like to know what's going on. I'd like to have that on an agenda item, please, at some point in time.
Okay, could you be more specific on, I get so many emails from so many folks, so could you be more specific on
There's a
which emails you're referring to?
email from Commissioner Taylor, one from Commissioner Mandyke, one from Attorney Stone. That thread.
I know which ones you mean.
Okay, thank you.
Any other offerings for future agenda items? If not, we've completed the agenda. I'm sorry.
Commissioner Taylor had his hand
Taylor.
up.
Yes, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I feel very strongly that there are some issues that remain open that we as MDC commissioners.
Commissioner Taylor, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask that the agenda is for future agenda items.
Well, I'm getting to that, please.
Okay?
And I feel that it is important that we place on the agenda a discussion about the mechanism or the process by which we are going to deal with these matters of concern that relate not only to issues or things that I have raised, but essentially fall clearly within the scope of matters that Commissioner Salemi has raised. These really go to this issue of the MDC board as a policy body and the fact that the reputation of this institution was severely damaged in terms of certain actions that were taken. And I think it is important for us to correct the record. In order for us to do that, we will have to discuss the issue of independent counsel because there are just too many conflicts. So that must be resolved. Secondly, we will have to deal with the issue with regards to Jim Sandler. If you will notice or remember, Jim Sandler was never interviewed. And Jim Sandler is a key player in this.
Commissioner Taylor, I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
can you give me a specific item you'd like me to consider for a future agenda item?
the
I'm
future
not-
agenda
I
item.
don't want to
basi-
discuss the issue that you'd like to bring.
I'm, not- listen, I'm not trying to discuss it at
Well,
this
you
point.
are, so I would prefer just
No,
tell us
no.
what you would like on the agenda.
What I would like on the agenda, basically, is that these matters of concern, how we are going to deal with them in the appropriate form. Now, part of that, basically, is Jim Sandler is going to have to be brought in here,
Okay, I've got your
okay?
suggestion for a future agenda item. I've added a word and determine the appropriate form. I've added determine, so. All right, are there any other proposals?
Yes, if I could.
Proposal.
Yes, I have two, please, Mr. Chair. The first is I'd like to make a recommendation for Commissioner Salemis that actually that be brought before the community relations. Community engagement, what do we call it?
Community affairs.
Community affairs, as far as Lake Madonna. I think that's a good place for that to start, rather than start it here at the board, because I think it is a community service that we provide with Lake Madonna, and I think it would be great to start there. And the second thing is I'd love to get a report either from Mr. Jellison or have time where we can really talk about the CDM report, which I think is very, very pressing and very important to the future of MDC.
Thank you. Any other suggestions for future agenda items? Commissioner Patel.
Explain.
A discussion, do you have an item you'd like me to consider to put on an agenda? Yes or no?
I'm saying is,
Do you have an item you want me to consider putting on an agenda?
no.
This is where we are on the agenda right now. We are not debating issues or other
Not debating,
proposals.
I'm saying-
Do you have a proposal to put on the
my
agenda?
proposal is people stop writing lengthy emails. To the point, and that's what, because I tell you, I don't read it.
All right, thank you, we get it. Are there any other proposals? If not, we've completed the agenda, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.